Hey YouTube, welcome back to Axis and Allies, the Garrison. This is Detroit coming back to you from the bunker here in Rochelle Park, New Jersey. This is Axis and Allies, the Garrison with Russia's turn. Okay, so it is episode 1.2. Okay, we're going to see how VK Cowboy responds to the potential German aggression. As we all know, during the last turn, which was Germany's turn, Dutch Lancaster, who is the commander of the German forces, pushed his forces up to the Russian frontier, the Soviet frontier. So in essence, Germany did not attack, but yet is threatening. What I would like to know is, what will VK Cowboy do? How would he respond to this German threat? Okay, as we know, the Germans were able to position themselves up against the border against the Russians. Now, question is, how will Cowboy respond to this? Will he fall back deep into the Soviet Union, or will he amass his forces up to the frontier? What kinds of weapons, what kinds of military hardware will Cowboy purchase in order to better supply his Russian armies? Okay, these are questions that will be answered today. Also, let's not forget that Germany had a very good first round. Germany, under the command of Dutch Lancaster, made very good moves that allowed and positioned Germany to inflict heavy damage on the British. Okay, so the British lost not only the majority of their navy in the Atlantic seaboard, but lost the entirety of their air force, including the French fighter up in England. Okay, so all four aircraft, the entire air wing of the British defense of the British Isles has been destroyed. Okay, so this is something that normally does not happen, but yet that's exactly what happened during the German turn. Was it luck? Maybe. I think there was tremendous. In all honesty, there was a large segment there of influx of luck that played a role with the way things turned out for the UK. But you have to give credit where credit is due. Dutch Lancaster, excuse me, did make the right moves, did play intelligently, and moved his forces effectively, and was able to perform effective attacks. Okay, of course, sometimes in war you need both. You need a little bit of good strategizing, good tactics, and also luck, and that's exactly what happened. All right, guys, let me know what you think, and we'll go forward now with 1.2, the Soviet Union's turn under VK Cowboy. Enjoy. So it is the beginning of the war. It's actually the early months of 1940. As you guys well know, the Germans already launched their attacks on the UK, successful attacks on the UK. They have also amassed their military hardware on the border against the Soviet Union. So now it is Russia's turn. VK Cowboy will go ahead and make his moves. Okay, so just bear with me for now. I try to make do as best as with my memory goes, as far back as I can, as far as the movements are concerned. But before I do so, I'm forgetting two things. One is housekeeping is in order. For starters, season 111, Dutch Lancaster during his Germany turn forgot that the British cruiser defending with the British battleship actually rolled at a 4. According to the BBR, cruisers that are paired up with battleships actually get to defend at 4. So mistakenly, Dutch rolled a 3 and not a 4. VK Cowboy during his turn corrected that error and rolled for that cruiser that had rolled at a 3 and rolled at a 4 instead. And of course, he did successfully roll a 1, striking 1 point of damage on the German Luftwaffe, which means then that we have to remove 1 German fighter from the Luftwaffe. Okay, and of course, we just did that. We removed that 1 unit. And needless to say, still a very successful turn of events for the German Luftwaffe and Kriegsmarine. Very successful attack. Okay, losing 1 aircraft only is just very good, very good. It's just, you don't see that often. All right, so let's go back. Let's go with the combat purchases that Cowboy made for the Soviet Union. Here you have 2 armored units. Actually, I believe it's 3 armored units that he purchased for the Russian army, for the Soviets. So that's 3 T-34s, along with 5 infantry divisions and 1 research and development, 1 technology that, of course, is a secret, and we will know until, at the very least, sometime in round 4 before we know what the technology is. All right, so let's go ahead with the actual movements. As we all know, Germany did not attack the Soviet Union. Hence, the Soviet Union goes directly into non-combat movement. So let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, so the Soviet sub in season 127 will move 3 spaces, 1, 2, and 3. And it will park itself next to the damaged German battleship, the Bismarck, in season 111. Keep in mind that they're not yet at war, so they can both occupy the same sea zone and not be in a state of war. All right, the second movement is also a naval movement. The Russian submarine will move into sea zone 114. The Russian, I believe, cruiser, correct me if I'm mistaken, I believe it's a cruiser in sea zone, the Russian cruiser in sea zone 115 moves up to sea zone 113. Again, next to a German destroyer, and because they're not in a state of war, they can both occupy that single territory, and that's sea zone 113. All right, let's go over the movements that took place on the Russian steppes. So, the 2 Russian infantry in Karelia. Actually, let me do the movements from Novgorod first. So, Cowboy moved all of his infantry from Novgorod into the Baltic states. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So he's moving all these forces into the Baltic states, including 1 AAA. Actually, both AAAs. No, I believe that was just 1 AAA that he moved in there. Okay, so, and of course, his fighter will also go into the Baltic states. All right. The infantry division in Belarus will also move in to the Baltic states. The 2 infantry divisions in eastern Poland also moved in to the Baltic states. Let me remove these counters or movement markers. All right, the 1 infantry division in Archangel moves into Novgorod. The 2 infantry divisions in Karelia move into Novgorod as well. Excuse me. And the 3 in Vyborg, the 3 divisions in Vyborg move into Novgorod as well. All right, let's go into Russia. Okay, here in Russia you have the mechanized infantry in Moscow will move into, all right, Belarus. Now, Cowboy, correct me if I'm wrong, but you weren't too clear in your video whether the mechanized infantry moved into Belarus or Baltic states. So I'm going to leave that open. For now, I'm going to leave it in Belarus, but it's a potentiality that this mechanized infantry would also move into Baltic states as well at a movement of 3. All right, so at a movement of 2, actually. Is it 3 or 2? 2. Yes, 1. No, at a movement of 2. The armored unit, though, will move at a movement of 3. 2 and 3. Okay, so the armored unit or division will move at a count of 3 into Baltic states. All right, so the artillery division, the infantry, and the AAA, I recall now, will move into Western Ukraine. And they're being railroaded into Western Ukraine because we have railroads according to the BBR. And of course, I just answered my question that I had for VK Cowboy. And of course, this mechanized infantry will move into Belarus because it has a movement of 2. It is not benefiting from the use of railroads. All right, so the fighter in Belarus will move into Baltic states at a movement of 3. Okay, the mechanized infantry the mechanized infantry and the armored division from Volgograd are going to move into Baltic states as well at a movement of 3. So that's going to be 1, 2. Actually, they don't make it to. I believe they move into Western Ukraine. Right? That's what it is, yes. Western Ukraine. And the 2 infantry divisions in the Caucasus will move into Rostov. All right? And the 2 infantry divisions in the Ukraine will move into the Western Ukraine as well. All right? And the one of the 2 infantry divisions in Bessarabia will move into Eastern Poland. And let's move this guy. I'm forgetting 1 infantry. It's moving in there as well. All right. Sorry for the sloppiness, guys. It can get a little bit tricky at times. We're making all these movements. And I think that's about it for the majority of the movements of the Soviets that were made by VK Cowboy. I'm sure that I made 1 or 2 errors, but I'll catch on to them later on. It does get a little bit tricky with so many movements, especially when they're not your own, they're someone else's. All right, so as we can see, what's happened here is that basically Cowboy has withdrawn from the German border substantially, especially in Eastern Poland and Bessarabia. Okay, so if the Germans decide to attack in these 2 territories, no great skin lost for the Russians. However, what's interesting is that VK Cowboy has chosen to reinforce Baltic states as well as Western Ukraine. So he is not falling back. He's actually preparing for future offensive operations against an eventual attack or offensive operations that the Germans may mount either in round 2 or round 3. So it's very interesting. I like what Cowboy has done here. He's definitely being smart about the way he's positioning his Russian forces. All right, guys, let's go ahead then with the placement of new units. According to Cowboy, he placed 2 of his 3 purchases, two tanks in Novgorod and 1 infantry. These are going in Novgorod. In the Ukraine, he placed an additional 3 infantries. He's got an industrial complex. He can place 3 infantry in Ukraine. An additional tank in Volgograd, which is Stalingrad. All right. And 1 infantry in Moscow, in Russia itself. Okay. All right. Very interesting. I like what Cowboy's done here. So we shall see what happens. Obviously, the next country to go is Japan, and it's my turn. It's Detroit's turn, and we shall be back shortly with Japan's round of play. Guys, let me know what you think. Did Cowboy do the right thing by reinforcing these territories? Do you think he should have fallen back? Was it smart? I think it was. I think Cowboy definitely playing smart here. All right, guys. As always, as I like to say, bunker down and play. It's Germany. It's Japan's turn next. Thanks for watching.